is going to take it over to have our share outs, but I did mention as we were talking about masks to wear at the polls that we have gotten you all these official YVote masks, which we were hoping to give out on our day of action when we thought that would be in person, but we are going to be mailing these to you this week. So let us know if you are at a different address than you applied to YVote in. But this will be great to wear to the polls or just around the neighborhood. I will say, and I'm not just advertising, I find this more breathable than many that I've worn, and it also fits better. I don't know if y'all have had the issue of like, oh, it's too big or it's too small. These are the Goldilocks masks. They're perfect, and somehow they fit everyone. So hopefully you will all have them in time for our teach-ins, our final week, so we can all, wear them together and represent. Woohoo! Nusat said, where were they sourced? It came from your facilitators helping us choose the design and many interesting things. And Nusat has something to add to that. Yes.
Oh, I was gonna say like how they were ethically sourced.
Oh yes, we are big proponents of like ethical sourcing and working with people who can really benefit from our resources and make sure that they're using environmentally sustainable resources. So that's why I vote. Okay, Stephanie.
Yes. Okay, everybody. I hope everybody genuinely enjoyed and learned a lot from each workshop. So now we will be going around and having representatives from each workshop just briefly share some highlights and calls to action that you learned from your workshops. So without further ado, let's get started with what is organizing. Whenever the reps
I learned a lot from that workshop. It was really nice to see, like, I took some notes so I won't forget anything, but we learned about different tactics to use when organizing things. So we learned about 10 different tactics. So they were door-to-door canvassing, phone banking and texting, tabling, house parties, district meetings, online organizations, rallies and public demonstrations, town hall meetings, and visibility. So it definitely showed me like a lot of different ways that I can like organize different things to like get, like if I am a representative for a certain issue, I can like how I can get my issue out there, who my targets are, like different important things to pay attention to when organizing certain political gatherings or political events. So it was very informative and I liked it.
Yeah, to add on, I'd like to add like a little something. What stuck to me was they explained the difference between activism and organizing, I think. And I didn't really understand it before, like when they asked the question, but when they explained it, like I came to understand like what's more effective. And apparently like organizing is more like thinking rather than just speaking out loud. So both of them are effective. I also learned what the difference is, and I think that's great.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much for those powerful comments, and I'm glad y'all took those notes. Next, we have a view from the Public Advocate's Office and what it means to be a watchdog.
Okay, so this workshop was very interesting. We spoke with two people from the New York City Public Advocate's Office that work under Jumaane Williams, and it was a really insightful conversation, and it really talked about the difference between activists and organizers and the thin line between what it means to be an activist, what it means to be an organizer. And we took some historical figures and actually identified them as whether they were organizers or activists, such as like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. And we really just like looked into a bunch of different work and how organizing really comes into place and what you need to organize something, whether that may be like a club or a protest or a march or whatever the sort. And then we talked about some current event topics such as defunding the police. And we had an interesting conversation about whether, even if we still defund the police, should we abolish the police since it wasn't really intended to protect communities of color. And we really just talked about how organizers are more strategic and how activists really just bring awareness to an issue, but organizers, they know a solution and they want to bring a plan to that solution.
So good.
Yeah, thank you. If those are all the reps for that workshop, then we can move on to the one that I was a part of, which was reaching goals through activism with creative thinking.
Okay, I didn't know it was me. So I did reaching goals through activism with creative thinking with Kim Sillen. So the first thing we basically talked about was accountability, and that was basically holding politicians and people in power accountable for their actions. So for example, like if someone says like they're going to do something but they don't, you have to keep them accountable. Or like let's say they're not doing enough, you keep them accountable for that. And another thing we talked about is trying to reach out in creative ways. So of course, like the social media and whatnot, and like posters. But like, what can we do to reach the youth, old people, people in the middle, whatever? So like she's an artist, so she does like art. She does like statements through her art, and like that's another way of like not campaigning but showing people in a creative way what's going on with the community, because there are times where people lack knowledge of what's going on. And let's say you see a piece of artwork that shows like a problem, and then shows like a problem, like then you would notice that, oh, there's a problem going on. So I feel like that's a great way to reach goals through activism, creativity.
In our group, we also did presentations in smaller groups about different issues that we found important to us. So we had a group about, for example, abortion and gun violence. And so with those, I learned a lot of information that I didn't know about, and it was nice to hear from the young voices about things that we care about that I never really knew other people found interesting. And it was nice to hear how we can use our art, different forms of art, to get the attention of other people around us.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you so much for using the talent to create those beautiful visuals. I also learned a lot from you all. So next,
you want to show us any? Should we see anything since it was a visual representation?
Does anybody from that workshop want to share?
I can share ours if you want.
Yeah. Does everyone want to see? I'm so tempted. I think we all want to see.
Okay.
Mariana, do you want me to share the screen, or are you ready?
Okay, you should share it.
Okay. 1 second. Is there anything specific that you want to focus on? Like a video or a slide or anything?
No, this is just our presentation that we did on education. Like, our presentation was basically about education and the affordability of college in the United States. Okay, so mostly the reason why students don't go to college, or the reason they drop out, is mostly because of financial issues. That is like the main reason they cannot go to college, because they can't afford it. This is where you see from 1971 to 2017 the increase in tuition fee. Next. This is I'm not sure about this one because I haven't focused on that one. Oh, this is a student loan, and this shows how many students have been like divested from student loan, and after college, like the student loan is will keep them back from doing whatever they want to do, and it's just like a heavy weight on them. Next. Yeah, that's it. It's basically about the tuition, the affordability of colleges.
Yes. We also used a video from the YVote must-sees, so resources. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, so for that. And next we have using the power of your voice, how to develop testimony for state and city legislators.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this this workshop. We basically talked about what a public testimony is, which is basically an opportunity to be heard directly by decision makers, politicians, legislators, and an opportunity for young people or just people in general to influence votes and how people end up voting. And a lot of people, and we learned that when doing a public testimony, it's important to speak your truth and add personal experiences to really engage with the audience. We learned that we had to do research. We looked at a power map. We learned how to create an effective testimony. And then eventually we learned how to write a written testimony. And then after we had all worked on writing our own like little testimony, it wasn't really polished and neat, but it was okay. Some of us shared what we had written down, and we presented it orally. So yeah.
Yeah, I also really enjoyed this workshop, and just to add on to Amir, we kind of learned how to structure a testimony, and some of like the main points that we learned about were how to weave in our personal experiences with statistics and things like that to give a really compelling argument. And we also kind of went over the formalities of, a public hearing and like what we can do as an organization to incorporate testimonies in future public hearings.
Yeah, we also talked about how it's really important for like the youth to engage in, like youth testimonies, and how it's important for the youth to like use their voice, because not only are we the future, but it's important what we say, because some officials are really leaning on what we say to make actual decisions about the future.
Yeah, I agree with all my peers, and I also enjoyed this workshop a lot. We also learned that it's important to do our research on the committee members that we are showing our testimonies to, because it would be easier to persuade the people that we're talking to when we know about their positions on the issues that we're talking about or the bills that we're talking about.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you. I'm just catching up on the comments, but
for those who are noting, sounds like a fantastic workshop, which all of them sound like. The good news is we recorded all of them, so hopefully we'll be able to make links to those available early next week on the Slack if you want to see what you missed. Obviously, it's not as good as when it's interactive and live, but you can get some of this great content.
yes, please share with us. Next up, we have a workshop that was facilitated by one of our own YVote facilitators, Frank. So we have the right side of the aisle. What's up with conservatism?
What's up with conservatism? Inquiring minds want to know.
Yep. So, was someone else talking? All right. So in this workshop, we learned about how really conservatism became popularized in the United States, and really the ideas of conservatism, not necessarily the political beliefs associated with it. And then we moved into things like how the philosophy of conservatism affects how these political beliefs are, how these political beliefs associated with conservatism became associated with conservatism, and discuss the different kinds of conservatism. I rest my piece.
So adding on to Nathaniel, I just wanted to say that this was among the best educational experiences that I've ever had, and I'm really grateful for the workshop. It was really interesting to learn about conservatism and to realize that conservatism and liberalism, like the two may seem like so wildly different, but there are so many parallels that I think that the stereotypes of each party has blinded us from seeing and from understanding. And just learning about how how conservatism was rooted in history and how it has built popularity over the years, and learning about all of the different, not only the aspects, but also the misconceptions. And I thought it was really great, especially to me personally, learning about the misconceptions, because I didn't really know much about it. And not really, for me, I don't really connect much with the liberal mentality. I do have some controversial beliefs, but I thought that it was really a great and accepting community in that workshop, and I really enjoyed it.
We also talked about influential figures that brought upon conservatism and stuff like that. And then we had like question and debate time at the end of the slides. And it brought up very like good and controversial topics that we talked about. And one of them being abortion, which we took a very long time discussing between Frank and others. And that was a really nice experience. And honestly, just by hearing what he had to say and what he presented with all the information, I just think that he's a perfect example that, like, despite our political differences, that we can still get along no matter how controversial his opinions or conservative opinions might be. So it was just very nice to see someone who isn't so like stubborn or just wants to fight you for everything. So yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much for all those comments, and from Frank as well for, you know, educating us on another perspective, because like we said, we are here for dialogue for all perspectives, not just one side or like one party. Next, we have another one by one of our own facilitators, Jessica, which was Campaigning 101.
Hello, I was part of this project, and to start, sorry dog, come here, come here. Okay, so she starts off with a very, very powerful quote. I wrote it down because it resonated with me. And she said, representation is everything. Who looks like us should represent us. And I was thinking there, wow, that's very, very insightful. So she goes on, before campaigning, you should ask yourself these 3 questions. Does this candidate reflect my values? Can I brag about this person? And do they bring me hope? And then she goes on to say, find a connection to that candidate and then do it. And that made me think, well, before you start a race, you should think about what car you want to drive to win that race. And now she goes with, now she's going to ask, she tells us what campaigning is. It's petitions, and then the idea of door knocking. And I learned today that in order for someone to run for a job or office, they need signatures. And how you're going to get signatures, one solution is door knocking, where you go on someone's door, you knock, and, you know, tell them about the candidate that, you know, you want to run, and see if they get their signatures. And some misconceptions or some narrative to some people who say no, they don't want to sign, is because they think that they're saying that they're going to vote for them, and that's why they're going to say no. We are going to change that narrative and say, no, not really. That's not how it is. We're only doing this for this person to run. This is not about if you're going to vote for them. Another way to do campaigning is fundraising, and that's a little bit harder. Oh yeah. Also, she an excellent way, she put difficulty stars on how hard or how easy it is to do these campaigns. And I personally like that. So fundraising, you know, have people give money to the whole campaign that you're doing, and also phone banking. Well, lastly, she gave us 4 rules. 1, to be open. 2, don't take it personal. 3, campaigning is a good way to network yourself and others. And 4, most importantly, take care of yourself.
Amazing. So thorough, Anthony. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And thank you to Jessica as well for facilitating that and helping all of us learn more advice to hopefully run for office ourselves in the future. And next we have how to organize and message for a local city council race.
Okay, so like I have like my notes, so I'm just gonna like go through them. So like this workshop was like really informative. It started out with us like learning the basics about like the city council, like the districts, like there's 51 districts in the city council. Some interesting things were that your city council member, like they control land use, which means that they are directly tied to gentrification. And that's like one thing I did not know. So that's one interesting tidbit that I will take with me, because they're able to like control like development and like control like what developers are like approved and like what it's going to be used for. They of course like control the budget, like the citywide budget and like their local budget for their district. And of course like there's legislation that they can approve, and just like advocating for like whatever issues that they stand for. And to organize for like a city council race, like you'd have to like train organizers, because like you kind of need an army, because it is very difficult work and like it's really easy to like burn out. So like you got to like identify leaders so like they can be the people who train your organizers and your activists, and like they're able to like teach new skills, like build teams, like empower the teams that they have to meet goals, because like it's campaign centric. So you have to make sure you meet goals as you're going along the election to make sure people turn out. And of course, like talk to voters. Then like we went along like electoral organizing and like what that was about. And it's about like how you have to like the dissemination of like information, make sure you're able to get through trusted information to people, that you're able to spread your messages quickly, and that you're able to like build community, because it's such a grassroots like election. Next, like we went through like all the different like tactics that were like we could use, and like the stages of like the campaigns. And basically like some pretty common tactics is like to make phone calls, to like knock on doors, hold meetings, host events, and like send texts. Like the first part of like a campaign is like the capacity building campaign. Then it's like the persuasion campaign, and like some tactics you could use are like door-to-door, phone banking, like events, like external plus campaign events. Then next it's like trying to get people to turn out. And then there's like something called Final Four, which is like in the final few days of like your election, you make sure like you just ramp it up, because it's like really important that you get people to turn out. And then like after that, we talked about like relational organizing and like the theory of how it's easier to get people to like turn out and vote if they know the person telling them to vote. So it's about like having your organizers contact the people in their circle, their friends, their family, telling those people to contact their friends and their families, so that like the chain continues, because they're more likely to trust a person that they know compared to like a random stranger that just knocks on their door. And of course we talked about like how all of these are good, but like we need to like follow up on all of this. We need to make sure we have data so that the candidates can be able to track what's going on, to know like where they stand in the election and to know their chances. We went through like this diagram in which like he showed us like this chart of like people, it went like two scales: people who are most likely to vote, least likely to vote, people who are gonna vote for the candidate, and people who just hate the candidate. And like he showed us like through that chart like the sweet spot of like people to like try to persuade first, and then the people that you try to target for turnout. And like that was really informative. And after that, like we went into like the messaging part and about like how to get messages across. Like we ended up like dissecting like campaign messages, like we dissected like Trump's, AOC's, Bernie's, Kamala Harris's, Ronald Reagan, and like what makes their like what's like similar about like their messaging, what's different, like how you're able to like relate to voters, like impacts of like parallel syntax, like using subliminal messages. Like when we were looking at like Jumaane Williams message for when he was running for public advocate, and like he was talking about like how like when at the end when he said we will win, that's just like so subliminal, because it's like out of everyone that's running, people have like the confidence that like they will win, and that's like that like makes them feel like better about voting, because it's like they feel like they have a chance and like their vote will count because their candidate will win. Yeah.
That was amazing, Kekeli. And, you know, to all that you'll see, there's a lot of comments to that effect. And I will say, I really am going to recommend to Chris, because he's with, in addition to running for office, he's with an organization called The Arena that does a lot of capacity building with people. And I'm going to recommend that he hire you and others to sort of like start a high school branch. And The Arena does have coin, let me tell you, they've raised a lot of money. So we should tap into it. I will also see if we can get, Kekeli referenced some amazingly powerful videos that they watched, campaign ads for AOC, for Jumaane Williams, and we'll see if we can get those and put them in the Slack, because they're really, I cried, I'm gonna be honest. So they're well worth watching this week.
Yes, beautiful. And like Nusa said in the chat, we will see you at the city council floor. And last but not least, I believe lastly, we have another one that was facilitated by our wonderful YVote facilitator, Yessie, using social media through the activist lens.
We learned a lot about using social media through an activist lens in this workshop. I thought it was very informative. And as someone who uses social media a lot, I found this very, very informative, like I said. So some notes that I took down was to be clear and concise in what you're posting and the information that you're posting about. Get straight to the point, you know, don't like add a whole bunch of fluff to your post. Like you want to get straight to the point, because people don't really have like that long of an attention span, unfortunately, but I mean, it is what it is. And have your audience identify with your cause. We learned some interesting statistics that 10% of people remember what they hear, 20% remember what they read, and 80% remember what they see/do, which is interesting and very much useful information. So we also learned about fake news and how to spot fake news on social media, because along with credible sources does come a lot of fake news. So we learned to consider the source, read beyond the source, check the author, like whoever's posting it, if the page like on Instagram or Twitter, if it's verified, all that. Supporting sources, check dates. Is it like a lighthearted joke, or is it something to be taken seriously? Check biases and ask experts to verify the sources if you know of any. We also talked about targeting like your specific audience. So as somebody who is trying to like advocate for a certain cause on social media, it's important to be transparent, authentic, and clear, and using like different features on social media to track your analytics and to make sure that you're spreading the word properly.
Okay, beautiful. Sandra, I believe that will be all. If so, we can move on to the next section for Kai to facilitate.
I just want to make sure, I think that was all of our workshops, but did anyone not report on their workshop? Okay, Kai, take it away.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna be talking about two things right now. So like now that we're nearing like the last final 10 minutes of today's day of action, I was hoping maybe we can like have like a few people kind of talk about like what we learned that we want to carry forward to our peers and our school communities. So like maybe thinking back to like what are some moments in our like sessions where you felt like, oh, I can see this actually being implemented, with like I can do this with a friend of mine and we can do this at our school, or in our like in a place that we feel comfortable in. And like, so yeah, if anyone wants to share that out, please feel free to do so. And another thing, I'll be sending into the chat right now Google form for all of us to like give in our feedback about how we felt about today. So please, if you don't sorry, brain fart.
Yeah, Kai, I'll put it in. You can focus on facilitating. You're good.
Okay, who would like to go first?
I guess I'll go first. I was definitely excited to experience YVote so I can go back to a lot of my friends at school and tell them about it, because I am the president of two clubs at my school. I'm the president of the Key Club at my school and the National Honor Society. So I can't wait to go back and tell them all about it. They're going to be so excited to get into, since, not a lot of us are going out to do events and fundraisers. I can't wait to tell them about all of this and like all the civic action that we do and all of the representation and all the, just the wisdom that was spread all across YVote. So I'm definitely excited to go back and tell all of them and some teachers that are our facilitators in our clubs all about YVote. So yeah.
Thank you, Cody. I also thought you said tea club. I was like, oh my gosh, you know about tea. So now let's see, like anyone else wants to share about, what they felt like they could carry forward?
I guess I'll go. Similar to Cody, I do a lot of stuff, but it's kind of like a little underground, and it's stuff within our like school community for like racial equity. And I do go to an all-girls school, so it's kind of like for gender justice too. It's like to bring back something for them as well, and they also feel like we do a lot like underground and not a lot of stuff that they can do as well. And I could like talk to them about this program and talk to them and tell them stuff that they could do like on their own and like how much power they truly have, because I feel like they really underestimate the voice that they have and how much they can use their resources to their advantage.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this program like definitely helped me a lot. It's with the gender justice groups, with like the meetings in general that we all have, learning about history, the testimonies, everything just like really just comes hand in hand. And it's definitely going to be helpful for the future because like now I'm more experienced and I could like help people and, just like inform them about voting because I'm definitely really, really informed on it.
Yeah, I also think that I'm going to carry with me so much information and knowledge. I spoke earlier about the misconceptions about conservatism, and just sharing that to my peers and other people that are my age. Although I am like a Democrat, I have friends who are conservatives, and I feel bad that they're always not represented correctly. And someone in our workshop said that as a Democrat, or I'm sure that others have experienced this too, is that you see conservatism through the lens of a liberal. And that is something that usually doesn't change unless you have a really eye-opening experience like the workshop that I was in. So I'm excited to educate my peers and friends about that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on and say, like, in school, I'm part of a few programs too, and like, I'm interested in like being able to share my experiences with them because like I have an NYU mentoring program, so it's like an all girls program, and to be able to like help them with getting their voice heard and whatever is something that's important to me because like gender justice is my action group, so it's just like a chance for me to like show off what I've learned and everything. And then with my Model UN team, like that's a chance for me to explain them. Yeah, you did hear NYU. That's a chance for me to explain to them what's going on too. I'm sorry. um, as even like apart from our action groups, I learned a lot about like college from the facilitators and even experiences that they had in their everyday lives. And like Kristen and Stephanie, today they were talking to us about college applications and things like that. So it was nice to be able to have open conversations with people who are close in age to us. It made me feel like, it made me learn that my voice matters, and I will take what I learned here to teach other children and people my age that they shouldn't be afraid to say what's on their mind, because it might change the world. You never know.
Oh, okay. So for me, like I'm younger, so I might not know as much as like compared to your, average millennial or older person. So like this has really helped me, open my eyes to different topics and things like that. For example, we talked about abortion, gun laws, and like in the past we talked about the electoral college. And like personally, I didn't know too much about the electoral college. I'm not sure many people do, but like it really opened my eyes to certain things. And personally, I'm not a part of any club because I'm like a bit whack. But this YVote has really helped me um, talk about things that I never talked about before. Because like I would consider myself like a very politically aware person, but I never like really talked about those things. So YVote has helped me do that also, and also talk with like a bunch of different younger people.
I'd like to add on to that. I agree with what everybody has said. I think that personally for me, YVote's been, I think to me, YVote is like an essential program to have, and we need more things like this, and for more people to participate in things like this, because there's so many ignorant people in the world, and people who just like decide that these things don't matter, and that it's still, there's better things to do. But honestly, this is like number one. This should be number one in anyone's book, because to be engaged civically and to learn what other people's opinions are and ideas are, and to really push for change and things like that, like it's really important. And me personally, I never believed that like me being like my age and being young, I never thought that I could like really make a difference, make further change in any sort of way. I could like post something on social media, but like how big of a difference is that really going to make after, going through this program and things like that, and like really seeing everybody be so engaged. It's helped me to really think about like what my next steps are and what I want to do, off this Zoom call, to really try and push and further change.
Ever since like I joined YVote, it's like, I know, like, I mean, I'm so sorry that I was like always late to meetings because of practice, but like, I mean, ever since like I joined YVote, it's like been a really like eye-opening experience, because like as like I was a debater, like I was always involved in like politics, always like debating about like the government and like its role and like things like that, and like policies. So I was always well aware. I was just like never aware of like the voting aspect. I never looked at it from like that standpoint. I was just aware of like what the government would do, like the laws that like in place, but like never like what I could do and like what my peers could do, and like how much like voting like mattered. And like ever since like I joined like YVote, it's like being in like a space where it's like you get to like talk about voting and like see how like voting like it actually like does matter. And it's like there's actually like spaces for like your voice to be heard, and like you don't have to just like rely on like politicians to just like finally like reach to like your voice. Like that like was empowering, and it's like from like today, the workshops, I would definitely take like the gentrification bit, because it's like, I live in like an area that's like becoming gentrified. I know very many people who are living in gentrified areas and who are living in areas where it's like, they don't know if like they could stay there in like the next like 3 or 4 months. And it's like it's the pandemic hit that like allowed them to have kind of a bit of stability, but like not really, because they can't afford like rent at the moment. But it's like just like learning about like how it's actually like the city councils like responsibility for that, and it's like the ramifications it's had on like the lives of like me and like people I know. I'll definitely like spread that around and make sure that we can like raise up a storm to these city council people, because that's definitely not something that like we could continuously tolerate. And I could like try to spread this through like all of my networks. Like I've been in like clubs and teams, and it's like, although like I've never like taken a leadership position, I'll definitely like spread it through all of my circles.
And with that, thank you so much for everyone who like spoke out. It was amazing to hear everyone and like hear like how like these workshops and how YVote itself have like inspired these new thoughts, or like not new thoughts, but have like attached a lot more like sort of incentive and motivation to like to turn these thoughts into action. And so like again, I want to stress like thank you so much for participating for today. And like again, like we're all part of a network here, so like if you feel like you weren't involved before but now you're here, like you can always like reach out to us for any kind of questions, for anything really. Like you know, this is like a YVote family, okay? We all brothers and sisters.
More functional than most families. Found family, chosen family.
So I'll pass it on to Sandra to.
Yes, well, Kai said it very well, and it almost feels like this is the end. And what's so exciting is we still have 2 more weeks together. This is just the end of our day of action, and of course, well beyond that, because you know we like to think of YVote as a life sentence in sort of citizenship and organizing. So thanks, y'all. You know, it's not everyone who would spend. How many hours have we been together? 6 hours on a Saturday that was supposed to be rainy, but is actually really beautiful. So we hope you will get outside. Thank you so much. I've already been getting texts and emails from the workshop facilitators who loved working with you. Please fill out your feedback form so we can give the love back to them. I mean, don't feel like you just have to say, you know, great things about them, but, you know, I will share with them the video of your sharing out so they'll know what you got out of it and can continue to grow and strengthen. This week, our theme at YVote will build on all of this, because we'll be talking about effective messaging, networking, and outreach. And we'll also be working towards our teach-in the next week. So just one thing on that, you know, we are YVote strong today across our Tuesday and Thursday cohort. We do have about 20 of our YVoters who weren't able to be with us. The final week, for anyone in the Tuesday cohort who wants to come see the Thursday cohort's teach-in, or from the Thursday cohort who wants to come see the Tuesday cohort, that will be from 7 to 8 p.m. So it's just one part of our final YVote week, but it'll be great to hear, especially if you're in gender justice, to hear the other gender justice, but also, you know, all of the groups are hot: criminal justice, environmental justice, immigration justice, gender justice, racial justice, inequality. Like, these are the big issues of our time, and y'all are making such important connections to how we make change, and at the intersection of activism, organizing, and electoral politics. So big props to all of you. Have great weekends. Oh, if people want to spend more time on Zoom tonight at 8 p.m., we are doing a showing of I Am Not Your Negro. Y'all made James Baldwin proud today. So, you know, you can come and see the foundations that you're building upon. It's this same Zoom. And we'll put it in the Slack as well. Really powerful movie. But also feel free to enjoy some time off of Zoom. So big props to all of you. Look forward to seeing you on Tuesday or Thursday night, and have great rest of weekends.